Hi. So in previous session we have learnt about the NLR. We have looked at this family of pattern recognition receptor is evolutionary highly conserved, which is present uh, in very uh, phylogenetically uh, primitive animals, right, like sea urchin, and it is widely present in all plants and animal. Okay. We have also learnt they have a quite big family and play a important role in defense, particularly inside the cells. Okay. We have learned that this can activate this family of protein can activate NF kappa B MAP kinases, and also it plays a very important role in maturation of IL-1 family cytokine. Now, since this family is quite big and there are a lot of mutations are associated with this node-like receptor family members, and these mutations basically result in either gain of function or loss of function, and this gain and loss of function may result to the some disease which is heritable. Okay. So in this session I will discuss in a great length about this the mutations associated with these family member, and those mutation which is associated with this family member are result to the development of disease. Okay. So here this is a very simple schematic. Here you can see there is a gain of function, and if you see this gain of function, there are list of disease which is associated with one or other mutations in the NLRP3 protein and NOD2. So here you can see there is a cryopyrinopathies. Cryopyrinopathies are basically a list of disease which is consist of Muckle-Wells syndrome, familial cold autoinflammatory syndrome, neonatal onset multi-system inflammatory disease. Okay. So Muckle-Wells syndrome or MWS is basically in these individuals there are fever, recurrent fever, rashes, and it is also associated with joint pain. Okay. Another is familial cold autoinflammatory syndrome. So this disease is also associated with intermittent episodes of rashes, fever, joint pain, and it is also associated with systemic inflammation. And this systemic the interesting thing is that this systemic inflammation is basically induced by cold, exposure of cold. So this systemic inflammation is basically induced by exposure to the cold. So this is quite interesting. That's why the name is familial cold autoinflammatory syndrome. Another is a neonatal onset multi-system inflammatory disease. So this disease is associated with neonate, as the name suggests, and there is a persistent inflammation. Okay, and that persistent inflammation result to the tissue damage, and this persistent inflammation also result to the or it affects nervous system, skin and joint. Okay. So this is Please note that these diseases are quite rare, okay, but these diseases are do present in the population, okay. Another list of disease is basically Balu syndrome, okay, blues syndrome and early onset of sarcoidosis. So, this is associated with NOD2, and this is again due to the overactivation of NOD2 mediated signaling, and it affects skin, eyes, joint, okay. So, this Balu syndrome is associated with early onset of granulomatous. So, there will be a granulomatous is there, and this granulomatous is basically you know, when infection is not cleared, then this will make a granuloma, okay. And this is this granuloma is, or granulomatous disease is associated with arthritis, or sometime there will be a skin rashes, okay. Another is sarcoidosis. Sarcoidosis is basically again granulomatous, affect any organ of the body. This can affect any organ, but it is quite often seen that this is affecting lungs and lymph nodes, okay. And patient basically feel fatigue, and they will also have a joint pain and sometimes shortness of breath, okay. So, these are some disease which is due to the gain of function. NOD1 mutation may result to the asthma, and this will affect the lung, and sarcoidosis, which is also caused by mutation in NOD1, there is a loss of function, and this is as I explained you earlier, in case of NOD2, the symptoms are similar. Another is Barr lymphocytic syndrome, which is associated with class 2 activation factor. There is a mutation in this in this protein, and this is basically this disease is a kind of dangerous. Reason is that there will be a severe reduction in CD4 T cells, and you can imagine a situation if there is a severe reduction of CD4 T cells, then what will happen. And this is happening in case of HIV patient, okay, or AIDS patient, okay. The patient they have a severe reduction of CD4 T cells, and these CD4 T cells are kind of pivotal for adaptive immunity, okay. So this disease is basically associated with reduction of CD4 T cells. There is a another disease which is associated with NOD1 or NOD2. It's not very well clear. This is inflammatory bowel disease. So inflammatory bowel disease is also several kind, and one of the disease is Crohn's disease. I will discuss in upcoming slide, okay. So this Crohn's disease is also associated with NOD1. There is a question about the NOD1, but it is quite firmly established that NOD2 is associated with Crohn's disease. Vitiligo, this is also a disease. It is associated with dysregulation of NLRP1, okay. So NLRP1, either it is not very clear there is a gain of function or loss of function, but it is associated with dysregulation of NLRP1, okay. Now I will discuss about the Crohn's disease, and there are several theories about the Crohn's disease, but it is quite firmly established that this Crohn's disease is associated with NOD2, and there are several school of thoughts. First is that if you see this slide, there is a reduced NOD2 dependent synthesis of alpha defensin protein. If you remember, I have discussed about the alpha defensin in when I was discussing the antimicrobial peptide, and this is synthesized by Paneth cells. Okay. So one theory is that there is a reduction in expression of these alpha defensin, which is dependent on NOD2. Okay. Another school of thought is that impaired recognition and clearance of bacteria by intestinal phagocytes. Okay. So here you can see that there is a compromised function of phagocytes, and this may also result to the Crohn's disease. The third school of thought is that dysregulation of TLR2 mediated inflammation in intestinal macrophages and or dendritic cells. Okay. And the last school of thought is that enhanced production of IL-1 beta. Okay. So maybe all these things result to the development of this Crohn's disease, but still it is quite unclear, although this disease was quite well established or well studied, I mean to say that. Okay. And there is another school of thought which is not shown in this slide, and I have discussed in previous session, probably when I have discussed about the antimicrobial peptide. Another school of thought is that there is the gut is filled with a lot of commensal bacteria. So another school of thought is that our immune system somehow destruct these commensal bacteria, and that also result to the Crohn's disease. Okay. So this is but this is quite well established that NOD2 is one or other way it is involved. Okay. Involvement of NOD1 is not so clear. Now I will show you the extensive list of diseases associated with NLR family members. Here I have just highlighted few important diseases. Now I will show you the extensive list in which you can understand that there are so many diseases associated with various NLR family members, and some of these diseases are characterized in a mouse by creating deficient mice, and those mice also show some similar pattern of the disease. Okay. So let's take up the first. This is a class 2 transactivator protein, and this here you can see that this disease, if there is some mutation, it will be associated with bone density defect, and these individuals may be susceptible to the bone fracture. Okay. Another is it is also associated with Hodgkin's lymphoma. Okay. B cell lymphoma, it's Barr's lymphocyte syndrome. This I have already discussed, where there is a decrease in number of CD4 T cells. Okay. Another is celiac diseases, susceptibility to the myocardial infarction, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, primary adrenal insufficiency, SLE, systemic lupus erythematosus, and type 1 diabetes. So here you can see that this molecule is associated with so many diseases. Okay. And I will again put a note here that try to understand any disease is not happening only by single mutation. In general, I will not say all diseases, but in general only one mutation is not sufficient or not enough to cause the full blown disease. There must be multiple factors, especially these complicated disease, and these diseases are quite rare. Okay. Another is node1 and node2. Here you can see that node2 is very well reported. There are some mutation in leucine rich repeat domain, and this is associated with Crohn's disease in human, and Balu syndrome, okay, asthma, atopic eczema, atopic dermatitis, arthritis, sarcoidosis, prostate and endometrial cancer, gastric lymphoma and leprosy. So here these are the disease in human, and this was characterized in case of mice also. In mice with mutation in this NOD2 molecule. So if you mutate this NOD2 gene, then these knockout mice, they did not develop a gut inflammation, but more susceptible to the bacterial and viral infection. So please note that this is little contrasting compared to the human. Okay, in human we say that they develop a inflammation in gut, and that result to the Crohn's disease. So this is quite contrasting. Another is NLRC4, and this is also associated with susceptibility to the bacterial infection in case of in case of human, and NLRC4 deficient mice produce a decreased level of inflammatory cytokine and exhibit decreased survival after bacterial infection, impaired expression of adhesion molecule and neutrophil recruitment. And this mice is NLRC4 deficient mice do not develop spontaneous colitis. Okay, it's a inflammation of colon. Okay. Another is NLRC5. NLRC5 deficient are they have basically exhibit, these mice, this NLRC5 deficient mice exhibit enhanced immunodeficiency. Okay, so these are some of the phenotype in case of mice, but we don't know in case of human. NLRP1, here you can see there are a lot of polymorphism in this gene, and all these polymorphism are reported, and these individual do show some disease like generalized vitiligo, Edson disease, type 1 diabetes, celiac disease, autoimmune thyroid disorder, SLE, systemic lupus erythematosus, systemic sclerosis, okay, giant cell arteriitis, it's a inflammation of arteries, congenital toxoplasmosis, Alzheimer disease, and some mutation are also associated with corneal interepithelial dyskeratosis and rheumatoid arthritis, predisposition to the autoimmune diseases. So just try to understand, you need not to memorize all these things, because this is quite complicated. I am just highlighting that people reported that these some of these mutation or polymorphism in the population are some or other way associated with these disease, but I don't know how formally it was proved it. Okay, so but there is some evidences, that's why people reported it. Okay. Next is NLRP3, and as you know that NLRP3 is quite well studied, and since it is quite well studied, there are so many polymorphism associated with this, and one of these polymorphism or several of these polymorphism are associated with human disease, such as type 1 diabetes, celiac disease, psoriasis, increased susceptibility to the HIV. That is quite interesting. I don't know how this is happening. Okay. Another mutations are also associated with cryopyrene associated periodic syndrome, okay, gout, inflammatory bowel disease, Alzheimer disease, high fat diet induced obesity, type 2 diabetes and atherosclerosis. Okay. So, if I see this disease, it is a quite different kinds of disease, and at least in current knowledge I cannot explain how so much variety of disease are happening. If you look at one simple thing, then you can understand that most of disease are associated with inflammation. So, somehow this inflammation is dysregulated and that result to the disease. Okay. So, NLRP3 knockout mice is also quite well studied, and here you can see this knockout of this NLRP3 basically mutation exhibit increase in IL-1 beta production and neutrophil infiltration. So, this neutrophil infiltration is also a mark of inflammation. Okay. And this mice, this knockout mice is susceptible to the colitis. This mice is protected from memory loss. I do not know how it is done, but there must the researcher must be investigated quite extensively. And this NLRP3 deficient mice on high fat diet have a improved glucose tolerance, and this deficient mice protected from the atherosclerosis. There is a one study. Okay. So, in this way, this you can see that NLRP3 is again associated with wide range of diseases. NLRP6, this is also reported with human diseases like multiple metabolic syndrome, okay, associated abnormalities such as colitis, colon cancer, and the mice is also investigated. This NLRP6 knockout mice are more susceptible to the colitis, tumor development after carcinogen treatment, exhibit insufficient wound healing, gut microbiota debiosis, resistant to some pathogen. Okay. Another is NLRP7, and it is also associated with some human disease. This is hytidiform moles are there, okay, abnormal human pregnancy and embryonic development, reproductive wastage, testicular and endometrial cancer. Okay. So, NLRP7 is also associated with various human problems or human disease. Next is NLRP10, and this NLRP10 is associated with susceptibility to the bacterial infection in human and atrophy and dermatitis, and this knockout mice of NLRP10 is resistant to the LPS induced endotoxic shock. So, this suggests that maybe this NLRP10 is in one or other way it is involved in production of inflammatory cytokine upon LPS challenge. Okay. NLRP10 mice has a major defect in T cell response after stimulation. The second last is NLRP12, and there are several polymorphism is also reported, and it is associated with hereditary periodic fever syndrome, dermatitis, and the knockout mice are more susceptible to the bacterial challenge, colitis and colon cancer. At last, there is a NLRX1, and these the mutation or changes in NLRX1 is associated with susceptibility to the chronic hepatitis B infection. The knockout mice is not available, and therefore the studies are not available. So, here you can see that at least I cannot say very firmly that okay, these mutations are associated with these disease, but I can say that there must be some involvement in development of these variety of disease. Some mutation in NLR family protein is associated to some extent in development of disease. Some are very well characterized like Crohn's disease, but still a lot of investigation is needed. So, with this I will stop the NLR family protein or pattern recognition receptor, and in next session I will discuss about the various DNA sensors, and we will look at various ligand which activate the these DNA sensor. We will also look at the signaling pathway and the responses induced upon stimulation of cells with DNA, and we will also look at the disease associated with these DNA sensors. Thank you very much.